Hi folks, Rick Berube here. We are live on the 27th of April. Wow, it's already April. It's been going on for a while now. So with Dan Mumm, of course.
Good morning.
So Dan, I thought we would start off today by talking about, you texted me this thing about the market on Friday, which I thought was interesting. I've been talking about it today in my coaching too. So tell them, you said something like, hey, I feel like the market's back. So tell them exactly what that means, because I love to hear that.
Yeah, so I think it's really important, especially now, for agents to be familiar with the market stats and what's going on. Now I used to look at it honestly like once a month where I look at it closely, and now I look at it every week. Really, really closely, I look at it every week. So it's interesting if you look at the data, and I posted a video about this, a lot of you guys probably saw it, but if not, what happened was on the 13th of March, that was the day where it was kind of the maximum uncertainty, as I call it. That's when the conditions were the worst. And if you looked at the supply and demand, or at least in Vegas, the supply was going down and the demand was going up, which is basically good, right? That's a hot market.
It's a very hot
market. And then on the 13th, it kind of went like this, and then it changed direction.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an inflection point.
You know, it's funny because Forrest sends me a graph like that, you know, exactly what you just said, and it's exactly
you
what
can
happened.
see it literally on that exact day, because that's when, I guess, the state of emergency was declared. So, yeah, on that day, it went like this, and then that's when things kind of started to get people were worrying a little bit, so the supply was going up, and the demand was going down. And then what's happened every week since then is that that's tapered off, and it's gone like this. And now it's starting to head back. So this last week was the first week looking at the stats. This past 7 days, at least in Vegas, were the first 7 days where the demand was up over the demand the week before that, since the 13th, basically.
Right.
So that's great news. And what's funny is that when I texted you, that's exactly what I'm seeing with my listing inventory. We sold 3 listings in the past week, new ones. And I've just noticed an increased demand, way larger number of showings, offers coming in. And it's not back to, I would say, where we were in February, but it's definitely picking up.
Showing signs of life.
Yep,
Yeah.
which isn't surprising.
And even the traffic is getting better and better, even though, you know, we're technically still shut down, but I think we're going to see some loosening up. I think people are getting antsy. And, you know, it's kind of like in life. Like, you know, it's kind of like when you get the most frustrated, it's usually when you're about to make a breakthrough. The problem is when you get the most frustrated, most people go, that's it, I'm done. And if they just kept going.
Right. So hopefully you guys who are watching this have been applying yourselves and working the past few weeks, because it's going to pay off. If you have listings, they're going to start selling pretty soon, I would say, especially ones that, you know, were priced right and just had a temporary hit. If you still have those listings, they should probably be selling pretty soon.
Yeah, and to me, to that point exactly, it goes to, like, think about this now. The dates that Dan just mentioned in March, when the state of emergency, Nevada was first, California was close behind, and then Arizona. So those are the 3 states we're in. But think about what's happened since then. Most of our MLS boards and most of our markets have still been operating between 60 and 80%, depending on where you are. With I've never seen a national pandemic before. I'm 55 years old. I've never seen stay at home, all the business. I've never seen, and the market is still, on average, between all 3 markets, about 70%.
Yeah.
What does that say about the health of the market?
That's exactly what I was thinking. That speaks volumes to the health of the market going into this and how strong it was going into it. Because, the fact that we're still, you just have to keep things in perspective. Yeah, 70% of max in a complete shutdown, that's great news.
It's amazingly great.
And really, like you said, we are still basically shut down. So the fact that we're seeing increased activity just shows you that it was really just a confidence thing in the marketplace and a mental thing. Buyers and sellers were just mentally, they were just not as confident. And now that the confidence is coming back, that's going to fix itself. Even if stuff doesn't reopen right away, it's really, the market has more to do with confidence. And that's basically it.
Yeah, it reminds me of my neighbor said to me, now this is interesting too, because my neighbor, this particular one, I've never spoken to other than when they drive by, and this time he stopped, I was walking to the mailbox, and he said, so how are you during the zombie apocalypse? You know, and I thought, you know, it's not funny. I mean, it's a serious situation, but I think a lot of people thought initially that was it. Okay, oh my God. But everybody realizes we're going to come out of this, we're going to move forward, and it's already showing signs of hope, which is really great.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long.
No, exactly right.
Months.
It seems like it's forever, but it hasn't been that long.
Right.
It's like both at the same time.
Yeah.
So, before we started talking, you mentioned that you had taken a $3 million listing, and it looks like we went under contract.
Yeah, so that was back in February as an expired listing. I called her that morning, went out and signed it around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And
I remember this one too.
Yeah,
We talked about it in one of our first videos.
I think I talked to you about it earlier. So yeah, signed it. We got a huge price reduction on it. It was listed at, she bought it for $4 million. We reduced it to 375, and then we reduced it again recently to 325. And this was one that, yeah, I was a little bit worried myself because I was thinking, well, if the market's soft, even if it's a really attractive price, who's spending that much money now? But yeah, it goes to show you someone's potentially writing an offer today, really interested in it, looking at it. So
That's great.
That's a better sign than anything, because if someone's spending that much cash, that speaks to a lot of how much confidence people have, especially in the Vegas marketplace.
Yeah, and with the stock market rallying, decent. I mean, it went down 30%. It's back up about a little bit more than half that. And if it continues on this trajectory, it'll be really good. And a lot of people, I think, in that price range, were taking money out of the stock market. So that probably put that on pause. But it's coming. I mean, so my point is that, is it perfect? No. Is it getting better? Absolutely. We still don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, but I would say most people are saying that we'll be coming out of it, and hopefully it won't be like a light switch turning on, but we'll be getting back into gear. So anything else? I mean, one of the reasons I brought up the $3 million listing is, I talk to some agents who thinks nothing's going on. Some of your sellers think nothing is going on. Okay, not only has Dan, myself, Mark has been really driving home, know your market stats. Billy O'Keefe talks about them on his post. I mean, you got to know your numbers when you're talking to people so you can sound educated. Plus, you just need to know it for yourself. Right. Plus, when you're talking to people, I think it's important information. Yeah, it's like I can see they're right there on that podium.
Yep.
The market stats.
I always have them close by, and it's taught me a lot. That's one of the positive things. We've talked about positive things that have come out of this. That's one thing for me that I've learned is I need to know the stats better. I need to be looking at this, and even when this is over, I need to be looking at this every week to really understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Sure. So
okay, you mentioned a affirmation type thing. What were you?
Exercise, motivation exercise. So it's actually a role play exercise. This is perfect for what's going on now because the most common question that I get is, Dan, what do I say when someone says I'm holding off due to coronavirus, COVID, I don't want to show my house, blah blah blah, and we've talked before about a few. Sorry, that's my phone. This is live, so we got things going on here.
That's funny. Hopefully, I don't get a call because I didn't put it on here.
Yeah, hopefully not. It'll really screw things up. So the way to handle this, the best way, is to always go back to the person's motivation. Why are they buying and selling? And you and Mark talked about this, and I really liked it. Where it depends on what their reason is. If someone needs to move, they need to move. If they don't need to move, maybe it's best for them to wait.
Right.
So what we always want to do is go back to motivation. So it's just a really quick exercise where I'm going to ask you where you're moving to next. I'm going to give myself 2 minutes. I'm going to time myself on my phone here. I'm going to give myself 2 minutes to figure out how motivated you are, and that's it. All I'm going to do is ask questions, and you're going to kind of resist me and just give me general vague answers, and I'm going to try and work on you and open you up a little bit.
You mean that kind of motivation? I thought you meant like motivation, like motivating me.
No, not that kind of motivation. Motivation to buy or sell. So
Gotcha.
There's a little drill. This is a really good role play exercise. We've done it in this class all the time where I'm going to give myself 2 minutes. I'm just pulling up my phone here. And I'm just going to ask you. Yeah, I'm just going to ask you questions.
Yeah, so we're on the phone, so I'm not going to look at them. That's what you do when you role play.
On the phone, and I'm going to start with the first question, which is if you were to move, where would you go next? Because that's what starts basically the motivation.
By the way, speaking of that Mike Ferry question, Mike Ferry is going to be doing a seminar for us. It's going to be coming out shortly, Friday at 10 a.m. So be looking for that too. I'm going to be asking Mike questions about this specific market situation. I didn't even tell you that.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yep.
I'll be there.
All right, I'm here.
Here we go. Starting the clock. 3, 2, 1. So Rick, this looks like a great house. If you were to move, where would you go next?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I'm glad that we're selling. Even in this, I mean, homes are selling right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are still homes that are selling here. I mean, if you were to sell this one, where would you go next? Would you stay here or move somewhere new?
My company's talking about moving me to Seattle once this is all calmed down.
To Seattle, wow, that's exciting. So is that a job transfer or promotion?
It's both. I'm being promoted within the same company, and they need me out out there in Washington.
That's great. So you're staying with the same company, and do you have any family going with you, or is it just you?
My wife and kids.
Wife and kids. Okay. Who's more motivated to move? Would you say is it you or your wife?
Well, like I said, my company, I need to finalize things with them, but yeah, my family's excited, even though my kids will be changing schools, but they're pretty excited about doing it, and we're relatively sure it's going to happen.
You're relatively sure, okay. And that being said, how soon did you need to make the move?
Well, if we all come, once this thing is over, if we come to terms, because it's been kind of put on hold until then, but once we come to terms, I would say I'd probably move within 90 days of this, of things opening up.
Within 90 days. Okay, great. Now, were you planning to keep the house here when you move, or were you planning to sell it?
Well, I don't know. That's a very interesting question because I've owned it for a while. Are homes maintaining their value?
Yeah, that's the first thing we'll talk about. It's a great question, what the price of your house is now, and maybe what the advantage could be to selling it now versus waiting until later. Is it possible you might keep it as a rental, or you're definitely planning to sell when you make the move?
Well, I would say there's a small outside chance because I'm not sure my wife would be crazy about that, but that's interesting that you asked me that question, so I may consider looking at that.
Okay, great. So why don't we do this? When we meet, we'll go over both options and decide what's best for you, and I'm coming up at 2 minutes here, so I'm going to stop. So yeah, that's basically the point of the exercise. I want to limit the time so that it forces me to really listen to what you're asking and stay on track and focused on your motivation to move. That's
And I would say that you would say that I was probably relatively, I was trying to be a little vague. I was going to get more, definite about it.
Yeah, that was like an 8 or 9 out of 10, I would say, which is good. Like I would meet with you in that case.
Yeah.
So we do ones in the class that are more challenging where I ask, hey, if you were to move, where would you go next? And your answer is, I don't know, I'd probably stay here. I don't know, maybe a bigger house. And then you have to really dig. But it's good to hear that because this is a good exercise just to get used to continuing to ask questions and not just stopping with the first question and saying, okay, that's your motivation, you're moving to Seattle, and we need to know more than that, right? That's the point of that.
Excellent.
So,
awesome.
There you go. There's a little exercise, a little homework for you guys.
Digging for motivation, and I thought I was going to have to break out the pom-poms because I thought you were motivating me.
Wrong motivation.
I just noticed it here when I was standing
There you go. Called the 2-minute drill. That's
it. 2-minute drill, I love it. Yeah. Woo! All right, guys, thank you very much for your time today. We'll pick it up again. We'll be doing this again Wednesday at 9. Actually, Wednesday at 9. Whoa, I almost forgot my plug here. My shameless plug. I have Success Series going on Tuesday and Wednesday this week, 9 to 11 and 1 to 3. The email was just sent out to all 3 markets again. Plus, it's all over social media how to get on that Google Hangout. And Dan is actually my live interview on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. So be there. Thanks, guys.